What's going on, Washington Commanders Nation? Thank you to the Bleacher Report app. I am here to give grades, reaction, and analysis from the Washington Commanders night one of the 2024 NFL Draft. A glorious night and beautiful day to be a Washington Commanders fan. We leave night one of the NFL Draft with our new franchise quarterback of the future, Jayden Daniels, quarterback out of LSU, a pick that everyone in the world already knew. Like, it was the league's worst kept secret or second worst kept secret. We kind of thought the draft started at 2 because everyone knew Caleb was going to Chicago. Washington gets their guy. Dan Quinn, Adam Peters, locked in on this guy. So do not worry about Top Golf Gate or any of the noise or rumblings that his preference was to play for Las Vegas. Washington gets their guy. This is an easy one for me. Washington gets an A+ for their selection of Jayden Daniels. Do not take draft grades too seriously the day of or day after the draft takes place, because ultimately these guys are going to be judged on results, on production, on translation. How do they translate to their league? How are they able to take the body of work they put in at the NCAA level to the NFL against grown men on Sundays? Jayden Daniels is a home run pick for Washington. They brought in Cliff Kingsbury as an offensive coordinator. We're going to be running a spread air raid type system. He doesn't want to call it an air raid, but we know what that is. We have a guy that can distribute the ball around. Does he have a laser or a rocket for an arm? Absolutely not. He does not have a bazooka, but he has 2 legs and 2 feet that set him apart from 97% of the quarterbacks in the league. We're talking about a guy who won with his arm last year. He won the Heisman Trophy because he threw for 40 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions. A guy that does not put the ball in harm's way, does not turn it over. A guy with plenty of experience starting 55 games at the NCAA level. He's day one ready. Pro ready, as you call it. I think pro ready is one of the more overrated draft terms. I think we should retire the term pro ready, and we should retire the term in structure, because I've heard those words this year more than I've ever heard it. Shout out to y'all in the chat. Oh, we're definitely going to talk about Brandon Ayuk. There's a lot of endless possibilities for how Washington can attack night 2, but just to summarize one for Washington, 6 quarterbacks went in the first round. 6 quarterbacks went in the top 12 of the first round. Caleb at 1. Jayden Daniels to Washington at 2. Drake May, probably to the worst situation of all the quarterbacks, goes to New England at 3 because he's throwing the Pop Douglas and Kendrick Bourne in New England. I'm going to pray for Drizzy Drake May. And then things got super interesting after that, because the biggest shocker of the entire draft, I would hate to be an Atlanta Falcon today. You go out, you have this momentous offseason where you bring in Kirk Cousins on a 4-year contract. You give him the absolute bag. And instead of going out and getting the best edge rusher, going out and getting a cornerback, or going out to add more weapons to the repertoire Kirk Cousins gets to distribute the ball to, they go out and draft a 24-year-old, often injured quarterback with their first-round pick. Michael Penix Jr., the lucky lefty out of Washington. The 24-year-old who's tore his ACL twice, hurt his shoulder a couple times. That's how Terry Fontenot, Raheem Morris, and the Atlanta Falcons chose to attack the quarterback position. I would be remiss and beside myself if I was an Atlanta Falcons fan today. Us and y'all are not the same. We got our quarterback of the future. Y'all are technically going to sit a guy for 4 years, 3 years at least, who's already 24 years old. So you're going to roll out a quarterback at 30 years old for his first start? I don't know what the logic is to that, but I know Washington hit their pick out the park. And then after Michael Penix went, the best situation other than Chicago, I'll probably say, is J.J. McCarthy going to the Minnesota Vikings, who jumped up 1 pick just to make sure Denver and Vegas had to see where they're at. They went and got their guy, and they got J.J. McCarthy at number 10. And then Bo Nix went to the Broncos in probably the most Sean Payton last resort pick that could possibly be. I'm giving Washington an A+ for round one. I think it would have been like an A++ because I was expecting Washington to jump out there when the tackle started flying off the board to grab a left tackle. They said we worked the phones. Adam Peters, he told him on the Pat McAfee show, we're going to be working the phones and aggressively trying to pursue a left tackle in the first round to pair with our quarterback. There are still a couple tackles on the board as we speak, and we can shift our movement to round two. But I definitely expected Washington to hop in the first round. Am I upset that we didn't? No, I'm not, because today is our oyster. Today is the day we can really get busy and put our stamp on the 2024 NFL draft. I'm looking at Washington selections for today. We didn't take a tackle last night, but look at the robust amount of draft capital Washington has going into day two of the draft. We picked number 36 in the second round. We picked number 40 in the second round. We picked number 67, 78, and 100 in the third round of the NFL draft. Picks for days: left tackle, cornerback, wide receiver, tight end, safety. We can get a little bit of everything. It doesn't have to go in a specific order, and there is hella talent still on the board. I'm looking at players available. We don't need a defensive tackle, but let's say decided to say, you know what, Jerzon Johnny Newton shouldn't be a second rounder. Grab him and put a guy on the block like Jonathan Allen. I don't think we're going to trade Jonathan Allen, but just a thought. Cooper DeJean, the great white hope at cornerback. The best white corner we've seen since early 2000s, Jason Sehorn. For whatever reason, he didn't go in the first round. Maybe the league is just being biased and don't believe white corners still exist, but he's on the board. Would love to have him. Press man corner, Kool-Aid McKinstry. DBs out of Alabama. I trust that program, especially at that position, as much as anybody that's out there. I don't think we're going to be drafting a center, so Jackson Powers Johnson is not going to be on the table for us. Kingsley Suamataia, or Suamataia. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. The younger cousin of Penei Sewell. And shout out to Penei Sewell, by the way. He just got a huge, huge bag from the Detroit Lions, him and St. Brown over the last couple of days. His younger cousin, Kingsley, plays for BYU. He spent time at left tackle and right tackle. Would love to bring him in here. Some guys view him as a bit of a project, but to be perfectly honest, when it comes to linemen translating to the league, they're mostly projects for the most part. Not most of them are simply plug, play, and be dominant. And I don't think there were too many dominant tackles in this class, but Kingsley Suamataia is somebody I have high on my list. I think Kingsley Suamataia, Patrick Paul out of Houston, the brother of our guard, Chris Paul. Those are two guys that are going to be high on the list. Do they have to be the pick at 36? Not necessarily. One is going to be on the board at pick 40. You don't necessarily have to take the tackle at 40. Christian Haynes from Maryland, who plays for UConn. Tyler Nubin and Cam Kinchins. Love them. Ladd McConkey, receiver out of Georgia. Absolutely dominant guy. I call him White AB. He got footwork and details in his game like Antonio Brown, but he's a little bit shiftier coming out. Washington do whatever they like with those picks, but let's get into a little draft. Let's get a little mocky going on. Oh, before we get to that, there's a elephant in the room. The San Francisco 49ers took wide receiver Ricky Pearsall with the 31st pick in the first round of the NFL draft. And what told me is that there's a clear sign that either Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuels is on their way out of San Francisco this weekend. Somebody's getting shipped out of town, y'all. And Washington has a need on the boundary receiver side on this team. And now that the first round is finished, it's not going to take a first rounder. They said for Deebo, the best call they got was a fourth rounder. Ayuk is better than Deebo. Deebo is the Swiss Army knife, what Ron would call position flex type of guy, but Brandon Ayuk is a pure ass wide receiver that I would love to pair opposite Terry McLaurin while putting Jahan Dotson in the slot. We at least have to make a call. Throw him a second this year and a third next year. It's not going to be as expensive as we thought it was. We see wide receivers that are quality get traded for a bag of chips all the time. Let me tell you why Brandon Ayuk to Washington makes more sense than any other team in the league. Our GM, Adam Peters, was a part of the team that drafted him. He's a part of the talent evaluation crop of people from San Francisco that drafted him 4 years ago. No one knows him better than Adam Peters. Well, other than the 49ers, and he wants out of there. They now have a log jam at the skill position. They got George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, now Ricky Pearsall. That's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. That's a lot of mouths to feed, and they can't give everybody a bag. Deebo already got it. It's time for Brandon Ayuk, coming off a second team all season, just under 1,400 yards, 8 touchdown reception season. It's time for Brandon Ayuk to get a bag. I don't think he's going to get $30 million a year. I think he's going to get 24, 25, 26 million a year, and Washington has the money. We still have the 4th most cap space in the league, despite the fact that we signed 20 players in the offseason. And not just the Adam Peters connection existed. Our A-plus grade quarterback that we took in the first round yesterday, JAYDEN Daniels, that is his best friend in the league. He has said it multiple times. His best friend that resides in the NFL currently is Brandon Ayuk. The player responsible for getting Brandon Ayuk drafted in the first round of the NFL draft was JAYDEN Daniels. He was his quarterback at Arizona State University. They tore it up together down there. Ayuk went in the first round. They've remained in communication. He said they talk every week. They talk all the time. And JAYDEN is already stirring the pot, and he just got to Washington. He hit you with the eyeball emojis. I've already seen Ian Rappaport, Josina Anderson already starting to drop the tea leaves and trying to perpetuate a Brandon Ayuk to Washington trade, and I'm here for it. I'm here for the media coming in and tag teaming, trying to create positive narratives for the Commanders, because for the majority of the last 25 years, we've been the butt of all jokes. We've been on negative headlines. We couldn't even be a bad team in peace because of the owner that sat atop the organization. Now, people are actually actively rooting for Washington to be good. They want to see Adam Peters succeed. They want to see Dan Quinn succeed in his second try at head coach. And they want to see JAYDEN Daniels succeed as a quarterback, a position that's been a purgatory for Washington for quite some time. We get a do-over for the 25 years that preceded this, and we're going into the second round of the NFL draft with possibilities for days and how you approach it. Brandon Ayuk should definitely be on the table. Deebo Samuel's not interested. Not interested in Deebo Samuel. If you want to draft Deebo Samuel, draft Western Kentucky wide receiver Malachi Corley in the 2nd or 3rd round, because you're getting a young, exact same model comp person as Deebo Samuel. Deebo has too many running back qualities for me to be trading heavy compensation for. Like the guy, not interested. Let the Gamecock go somewhere else. But let's get a little mock going on here for the 2nd and 3rd rounds for the Washington Commanders. Cooper DeJean and Kool-Aid McKinstry is going to be the debate we would have if both were on the board. I have a feeling that one or both of them are going to go in the first 3 picks, but you never know. So I see Buffalo took A.D. Mitchell. New England took Keon Coleman. Thank the Lord they got Drake May a weapon down there, because their receiving core is a bunch of Geico salesmen right now. And the Cardinals went corner. They went T.J. Tampa. I think one of Kingsley Suamataia or Houston tackle Patrick Paul is going to be there. Oh, Washington tackle Roger Rosengarten. I would gladly take him and pop him over to the left side as well. We have options at the tackle position. I know it's the next biggest need on the team, but I would be remiss to say that cornerback is also a gigantic need. I know we're getting year 2 of Forbes with a coaching staff that actually probably has a plan for him, and Benjamin St-Juste getting actual coaching. We're going to see what that's like, but we need a dog in the cornerback room. The Giants took Neighbors yesterday. The Eagles got both of their receivers locked up for the next 3 years in Smitty and A.J. Brown, and we saw what A.J. Brown did to Emmanuel Forbes last year. And the Cowboys are probably going to add to their wide receiver room, but they got a top 3 receiver in CeeDee Lamb over there. We need a dog in that cornerback room. Love Cooper DeJean. I think he's a corner, even though everybody tries to pigeonhole him to be a safety because of his ethnic background. I love that guy. He's a baller, but the conversation between him and Kool-Aid McKinstry is hard. Kool-Aid McKinstry is a tall, like nice long cornerback, no pause. I think he would fit in Dan Quinn's system perfectly. I got to go with one of the corners here because I really think we're going to get one of the tackles that are high on our list at pick 40. And I think I'm taking a player like Cooper DeJean at 36 if he's there. With no questions asked, I'm taking him easily. Carolina, thanks for calling me, but I'm hanging up the phone on you. We're not interested in trading back with Kansas City or Carolina. And then boom, the tackle we were talking about is available at 40. Didn't have to trade first round to get him. Didn't have to take 36. We're taking the cousin of Pesul, former Oregon Duck, Kingsley Suamatia, with the 40th pick of the draft. We're going into the third round now with 3 picks. We got quarterback out the way. Check. We got cornerback out the way. Check. We got offensive tackle, left tackle out the way. Check. I think we're going to double dip at the tackle position, though, because Andrew Wiley ain't it. If you watch the Washington Commanders last year, Andrew Wiley was a bit of a turnstile for the majority of the season last year. We need to upgrade at both tackle positions. I think we're going to be all right at guard. Sam Cosmi is an absolute dog. The only real, promising young offensive lineman we have on the roster before the draft. I think we're going to be good on the right side. We signed Nick Allegretti out of Kansas City to come in and compete for the starting job. I think we're cool at offensive guard. Carolina, I don't know why you keep calling me, my boy. We're not making that trade with y'all. We're moving on to the third round. I'm thinking receiver. I'm thinking tight end. I'm thinking safety. I'm thinking right tackle. Let's see how this board played out. Malachi Corley. I was just telling you, if you want a Debo Samuel type guy, if you want a rack god, Yak got a guy that's going to get the ball and run like a running back after he catches it and make things happen. Malachi Corley is your guy. Definitely someone I'm interested in. Let's see how this board played out. Kamari Lassiter is there if we didn't take a corner at 36, but let me see how this board played out. I'm taking a tight end here. I don't know about you guys. I'm taking JT Sanders out of Texas. It's a guy I've loved throughout the process. He's not going to be a blocking tight end. Don't need him to be. Just need him to learn the game. And under the tutelage of Zach Ertz for a year, we got a starting tight end. Let's see how the wide receiver board and the tackle board is shooking out so far. Let's see what's still on the board. I know we brought in Blake Corum for a visit. Kieran Amagaji out of Yale. He is very interesting to me. He's a guy I would like to plug in. You know what? We're going to double dip at tackle. We're going to double dip at tackle. I know they keep telling you that if Adam Peters brings a guy in on a visit, he usually drafts players that come on a visit. We're taking a guy out of the Ivy League, Kieran Magaji, to come in. We now have 2 starting tackles. Yeah, we're going to start 2 rookies. Why not? This is a youth movement here in Washington. While I think the drafting of Jayden Daniels sets us up for a higher floor immediately, we're not out here shooting for the playoffs in year 1. It's development season. We're trying to develop young guys. We're trying to establish a competitive culture. First, you have to be able to compete. 24 for Washington is going to be about competing. And after these young guys start to settle in, it's time to worry about contention. So you got to compete before you can contend. Washington needs to establish the fact that we can contend first, put out a rookie quarterback and 2 rookie tackles. Let's see what we got here. I need a wide receiver safety here, guys. The Cameron Richardson, I think he's more of a safety than a cornerback. I'm looking at the board. Jaden Hicks is still on the board. That's going to be my pick here. Jaden Hicks is one of the more versatile safeties in this entire class. So this is my first mock draft of how day 2 could play out for the Washington Commanders. We started the draft off with Jayden Daniels. We went cornerback extraordinaire Cooper DeJean. I say cornerback with emphasis. He's a corner, guys. Stop looking at him like you got to force him at the safety position. This is not Troy Apke. He actually has elite tape. Check the archives. We go tackle Kingsley Suamatia from BYU, former Oregon Duck. Tight end JT Sanders out of Texas. Kieran Amagaji, tackle out of Yale, and safety Jaden Hicks. We ended up not going receiver, but who knows? We could trade some 2025 draft compensation and bring Brandon Ayuk here. Now imagine we hit on picks like this and acquire Brandon Ayuk today. We would be the undisputed winners of the draft through 2 days so far. Let me know who some of you guys' favorite prospects are in the draft so far. I don't think we're pigeonholed into specific positions on each pick. We have multiple needs to fill. I don't think every need on the roster is going to be filled in year one, but we have a great opportunity to set this team up for success. And with the amount of robust draft capital we have, we could technically wheel and deal our way up and down the board at all times. Like, we don't have to stay put at each position. We can move up if we target somebody. If we want someone at the top of the second round, we can move up 3 picks and pick first in the second round. If after we select at 36 and 40, if we want to get back up in the second round to pick 3 second rounders, we have 3 third rounders and 2 fifth rounders on day 3. No fourth rounders, but we have picks for days. Check your draft board. Since we did not trade into the first round, we still have a fully loaded clip of draft picks for the next 5 rounds of this NFL draft. And I'm very excited to see Adam Peters get to work. I don't know if you saw Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, Josh Harris, and the contingent of Washington brass in our weak-ass war room last night, but all suited, booted, and dressed for success. It's a new day in Washington. Let me know what you think of my mock draft, y'all. There's obviously multiple ways this thing here could go, but I think Jayden Daniels, Cooper DeJean, Kingsley Suamataia, Jatavian Sanders, Kieran Amagaji, and Jaden Hicks is a beautiful way to start the class. I know it's very offensive heavy, and that is by design. I probably will not draft another defensive player in this class if we're being totally honest. I don't see us going edge earlier than like round 3 because the signings of Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler Jr., and Cleveland Farrell, and with the possible ascension of KJ Henry, second-year player out of Clemson in year 2, I don't necessarily see us having to jump out there. Chop went in the first round. Jarrett Verse went in the first round. Dallas Turner went in the first round. Those are the premier. Darius Robinson, first round. Those are the premier edges in this class. You don't have to reach for an edge at this point. And the way that we handled free agency, it sets us up so we do not have to jump out there at the edge position. There are a lot of ways this thing could go, but I think that would be a beautiful way to start the class. Going back to our first round pick to wrap up the stream over these few minutes, let's talk about Jayden Daniels. Let's talk about how Adam Peters said Cliff Kingsbury is going to tear the offense around Jayden Daniels and his skill set here. Far too many times in this league, we see coaching staffs stubborn, who operate with ego, who force players to acquiesce to their scheme rather than the opposite way around. The best way to achieve success from a coach's standpoint is to work with the hand you are dealt. With the players that you select, curtail your scheme to fit their skill set. Stop trying to make guys be something different. Jayden Daniels is a pass-first quarterback with the potential to go 80 yards at any time. What did Adam Peters say yesterday? Soul-snatching speed that could take it 90 yards to the crib at any time. That's what we just drafted at the quarterback position. Is his ceiling capped at 23 years old, turning 24 in December? Not necessarily. He can still get better. He's got a little progressively better throughout his college career before absolutely going crazy in 2023 and winning the Heisman Trophy. His trajectory looks very similar to Joe Burrow's. Joe Burrow was ass in college before his final year. He lost a starting job to Dwayne Haskins at Ohio State, transferred, was average in LSU, and then absolutely lit the world on fire in his final season, winning the national championship and getting Trevor Lawrence the hell out of here in the national championship. And he's gotten to the league, and he's been exactly as advertised. He's got hurt a few times, but he's taken that team to a Super Bowl and multiple conference championships. That is the dream when you draft a quarterback. It's ultimately always going to be a crapshoot. And while I give it an A+ grade in real time, None of it matters until we get Jayden Daniels on a football field. None of it matters until games start and we see how the progression comes after year one. Does he need to be C.A. Stroud and win Rookie of the Year just to be deemed successful? Absolutely not. But we need to see flashes of why we drafted him. We need to see flashes of greatness. Flashes. He doesn't have to be great automatically. He doesn't have to come out smoking. But you would hope, though, after you drafted a guy who started 55 games in college, that he could hit the ground running and make some things shake immediately. I love the pick of Jayden Daniels. I would have loved it if we took Drake May as well, but we took Jayden Daniels. So Washington fans who don't like the pick, suck it up. Pat yourself on the back, chin up, head to the sky. Support your quarterback. I'm tired of fan civil wars here. RG3 versus Kirk. This Drake May versus Jayden Daniels conversation got so toxic over the draft process that people lose sight of team. We are fans of the team first and player second. He is now your quarterback. Support the guy and for him to thrive and stop trying to be petulant and hoping you're right rather than hoping for the success of the actual football team. Jayden Daniels is now the future of the Washington Commanders. I give that an A+. And I would give us an A if we came away from rounds 2 and 3 with Cooper DeJean, Kingsley Suamatia, Jatavian Sanders, Kieran Abagaji, and Jaden Hicks, safety out of Washington State. I love how that mock draft turned out for me. Adam Peters' masterclass is on the way over the next couple rounds. Let me know a player that you would pound the absolute table for. Who is your can't-miss guy in round 2? If Keon Coleman is there at 36, I have to pounce. I need that in my life. I need a 6'4" receiver with amazing balls. I don't care about his 40 time. When you put on the tape, Keon Coleman is getting away from Bamas on a regular basis. He gets separation on a consistent basis. And watch his gauntlet drill. You want to see a wide receiver with natural hands? No one ran a faster, straighter line, soft-handed gauntlet than Keon Coleman did at the NFL scouting combine. Everybody can't run a 4.3. Everybody can't run a 4.4. But guys like Keon Coleman, you can't lie about what their capabilities are as a wide receiver. In a wide receiver room that's a little bit diminutive, we don't have any big body receivers on the roster. So while I'm not pigeonholing us to drafting a receiver that's 6'3", 6'4", it would be nice to have a receiver with some size here in Washington. The only real size receiver we've had over the last couple years was Cam Sims, and Cam Sims was a jag. I want a supremely gifted, big body receiver. Keon Coleman would be that. I like Malachi Corley. I can't believe Ricky Pearsall went in the first round. Ricky Pearsall went to San Francisco. Xavier Legette of South Carolina, one of my biggest draft crushes, a DK Metcalf type clone. They call him a one-year wonder. We're going to see how that plays out. Went to Carolina, so Bryce Young got Deontay Johnson and Xavier Legette on one side. The theme of the 2024 NFL draft, yeah, offenses win championships in 2024. Very heavy offensive laden draft, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that play out as night 2 goes off. If you follow me on YouTube, Rio Robinson, Rambling with Rio, we're going to be live on the channel probably starting at 6 o'clock, going all the way to the end of round 3. Washington has 5 picks tonight. Get your popcorn ready. I'm going to be live with my guys, Tay, Ty, Jalen, Zach, Alex. Make sure you see the hyperlink down there. Rio Robinson, Rambling with Rio on YouTube. We're going to be live reacting and giving our analysis to every selection that comes off the board. Washington Commanders Nation, stand up. The days of Dan Snyder are in the past. The Josh Harris, Adam Peters, Dan Quinn era is officially underway. Their first draft here, it started with quarterback Heisman Trophy winner Jayden Daniels out of LSU. Despite all the noise and chatter surrounding agents, top golf, and preferences where guys want to play, we took our guy. We're happy to have him. He's happy to be here. Now let's hit the ground running in 2024 and let's kill the rest of this NFL draft. That is my time for this morning. Hail to the Washington Commanders. Commander Rio Robinson checking out. Thank you to everybody that put up in the chat. Let's have a day. Let's have a night. Rounds 2 and 3 on deck coming soon. Until next time, Rio out.